There's something fascinating about growth that nobody talks about. We're obsessed with dramatic transformations, the before and after photos, the overnight success stories that make headlines. But real evolution doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It doesn't send you a notification saying, "Congratulations, you've officially leveled up." Instead, it happens in the quiet spaces between who you were and who you're becoming. It whispers through small shifts that you barely notice until one day you look around and realize everything has changed. Most people are walking around completely unaware that they're in the middle of their own metamorphosis. They're so focused on looking for the big moments, the obvious victories, that they miss the subtle signals their life is sending them. They dismiss the small changes as coincidence or luck, never recognizing that these quiet transformations are actually the most powerful indicators that something profound is happening beneath the surface. Here's what's strange about personal evolution. The people who are genuinely leveling up are often the last ones to realize it. They're too close to their own story to see the bigger picture. Meanwhile, others around them start noticing something different. There's a shift in energy, a change in how they move through the world. But the person experiencing it thinks they're exactly the same as they've always been. This isn't about motivation or trying harder. This is about recognizing the signs that you're already in motion, already changing, already becoming something more than what you were. Because when you can identify these subtle shifts, something powerful happens. You stop waiting for permission to acknowledge your own growth. You stop needing external validation to confirm that you're on the right path. You start trusting the process that's already unfolding. Think about a tree growing. You don't see it happening in real time, but every day the roots go deeper, the branches reach further, the trunk grows stronger. The tree doesn't question whether it's making progress. It doesn't compare itself to other trees or worry about growing fast enough. It just grows quietly, consistently, following an internal intelligence that knows exactly what it's doing. You're more like that tree than you realize. While you've been busy doubting yourself, criticizing your pace, wondering if you're doing enough, your life has been reorganizing itself around a new version of you. The evidence is everywhere, but you have to know how to look for it. The first sign that you're leveling up without realizing it is that your tolerance for certain things has completely shifted. Remember that friend who used to drain your energy with endless complaints about the same problems they refused to solve? Suddenly, their phone calls feel exhausting in a way they never did before. That job that once felt tolerable now feels suffocating. Those conversations that used to seem normal now feel shallow and pointless. This isn't you becoming judgmental or difficult. This is your internal compass recalibrating. As you grow, your capacity for what serves you expands, and your patience for what doesn't serve you naturally decreases. It's like your soul is getting pickier about what it allows into your space. You're not consciously deciding to have higher standards. Your standards are simply rising to match the person you're becoming. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people interpret this shift as something being wrong with them. They think they're becoming antisocial or too demanding. They feel guilty for outgrowing situations and relationships that once felt comfortable. They try to force themselves back into spaces that no longer fit, wondering why everything feels so uncomfortable now. What they don't realize is that this discomfort is not a problem to be solved. It's information to be received. Your nervous system is telling you that you've expanded beyond your current environment. Like a snake that needs to shed its skin, you're feeling the constraint of circumstances that once felt perfectly sized for who you were. Another sign you're leveling up is that your problems have completely changed categories. 6 months ago, you were stressed about things that don't even register on your radar anymore. The drama that used to consume your thoughts has been replaced by entirely different concerns. You're worrying about opportunities instead of obstacles, about potential instead of limitations, about how to manage abundance instead of how to survive scarcity. This shift in your problem portfolio is one of the clearest indicators of growth, but it's also one of the most overlooked. We tend to focus on the fact that we still have problems, missing the crucial detail that the nature of our problems has fundamentally transformed. The person who's concerned about which investment opportunity to choose is living in a completely different reality than the person who's worried about making rent. Same person, different level, different challenges. Your brain doesn't celebrate this transition because it's not wired to notice gradual change. It's designed to spot immediate threats and obvious rewards. The subtle upgrade in your problem quality flies completely under its radar. You just know you're still dealing with challenges, so You assume nothing has changed. But the quality of your challenges is actually the most reliable indicator of the quality of your life. There's something else happening that you're probably not paying attention to. The way people respond to you has shifted in ways you can't quite put your finger on. Conversations flow differently. People ask for your opinion more often. Strangers treat you with a different kind of respect. Friends start coming to you with problems they never would have brought you before. This isn't because you've done anything dramatic or obvious. It's because you're carrying yourself differently. There's a subtle confidence that comes from internal work, a quiet authority that emerges when someone has been doing the real work of growth. Other people sense this shift before you do. They pick up on an energy that says this person has figured something out, even if they can't articulate what that something is. You might dismiss these changes as coincidence or overthinking, but pay attention to the pattern. When multiple people in different contexts start treating you differently, it's not random. It's reflecting back the energy you're putting out into the world. You've changed frequencies, and the world is responding accordingly. What's fascinating is how your relationship with time itself has transformed without you noticing. You used to rush through everything, constantly feeling behind, like you were chasing something just out of reach. Now there's this strange sense of spaciousness, even when your schedule looks exactly the same on paper. You're not moving any slower, but somehow there's more room to breathe between moments. This shift happens because you've stopped living in the gap between where you are and where you think you should be. That constant mental calculation, that endless measuring of progress against some invisible timeline, has quietly dissolved. You're still ambitious, still moving toward your goals, but the desperate edge has softened into something more sustainable. You're working with time instead of against it. Most people never recognize this as growth because it doesn't feel like achieving something. It feels like releasing something. The frantic energy that used to drive you has been replaced by a steadier rhythm, and your mind interprets this as slowing down rather than leveling up. But this is actually one of the most profound shifts you can experience. You've learned to trust the timing of your own life. Here's another sign that's so subtle it's almost invisible. Your inner dialogue has changed completely. The voice in your head that used to be a harsh critic has become something closer to a wise advisor. Instead of berating yourself for mistakes, you find yourself asking, what can I learn from this? Instead of catastrophizing about the future, you're curious about what's possible. Instead of rehearsing worst-case scenarios, you're planning for success. This transformation in your mental soundtrack is huge, but it happens so gradually that you don't even notice it's occurred. You just know that life feels less heavy somehow, less exhausting. What you don't realize is that you've fundamentally altered the relationship between you and your own thoughts. You've stopped being at war with yourself, and that peace is radiating into every area of your life. The people around you can sense this shift, even if they can't name it. They feel safer in your presence because you've made peace with yourself. They trust your judgment more because you're not constantly second-guessing everything. They seek your company because being around someone who isn't fighting an internal battle is deeply refreshing. But perhaps the most telling sign that you're leveling up is how you handle uncertainty. Remember when not knowing what was going to happen felt like torture? When you needed to have everything figured out 3 steps ahead, or your anxiety would spiral out of control. Now uncertainty feels different. Not comfortable exactly, but workable. Like a puzzle to explore rather than a threat to survive. You've developed what some call uncertainty tolerance, but it's more than just tolerance. You've begun to see the unknown as the space where possibility lives. Instead of demanding guarantees before you act, you've learned to move forward with incomplete information. Instead of needing to control every variable, you've discovered the freedom that comes from controlling only what's actually yours to control. This shift is revolutionary because it changes how you approach everything. Relationships become less about securing outcomes and more about enjoying the journey. Career moves become less about guaranteed success and more about aligned growth. Life becomes less about avoiding risk and more about embracing the right kinds of risk. What's remarkable is that all these changes are happening simultaneously, creating a compound effect that's transforming your entire existence. You're not just getting better at one thing, you're becoming a different kind of person. The person who can hold complexity without needing to simplify it, the person who can sit with discomfort without needing to fix it immediately, the person who can trust their own judgment without needing constant external validation. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you level up, the less you need to announce it to the world. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to be doing. You stop performing your growth for others because you're too busy living it. So if any of this resonates with you, if you recognize yourself in these subtle shifts, take a moment to acknowledge what's actually happening. You're not just surviving anymore. You're not just getting by or making do. You're evolving in real time, becoming someone who can handle more complexity, more uncertainty, more life. The tree doesn't celebrate each ring of growth, but those rings are proof of time well spent, of quiet persistence, of trust in the process. Your growth rings might not be visible to others, but they're there. Each challenge you've navigated, each fear you've faced, each moment you chose growth over comfort has added another layer to who you're becoming. You're leveling up, not because you forced it or rushed it or performed it perfectly, but because you kept showing up, kept choosing the harder path when it mattered, kept trusting that the process was working even when you couldn't see the results. And that's perhaps the most beautiful part of all. Real growth doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need recognition or applause. It just needs you to keep going, keep trusting, keep becoming. The transformation is already happening. You just needed someone to help you see it.